to the cloud. All right, y'all. So we are nearing the end of the 5-series class. Again, my apologies for the hiccup in class for not being able to happen last week. Life just really lifed with me, but I still have that same speaker able to come back. So she should be jumping on towards the end of this, but we're going to be talking about breastfeeding and returning to work, and then maybe we'll get into some weaning stuff. I'm just going to see how that goes. My icebreaker question for you all, and not sure what everybody's doing, so maybe you're able to come off mute, maybe not, if not, type it into the chat for me, but how many coworkers or colleagues or family members or friends do you know that successfully breastfeed once returning to work? Like, is it a lot of folk? Is it nobody? Is it like one unicorn? What are y'all seeing out there?
Hey, everybody that I know that has breastfed went back to work and were successful with pumping and still nursing.
Anybody else? About how many people do you know that like successfully continue to breastfeed when they go back to work?
Oh, you saw me leave? Oh. So they should have been gone yesterday.
All right. Well, the reason I'm asking this question is because one of the things that I was not prepared for in my first breastfeeding journey was returning to work. What I'm excited for about all of you is, the times have changed. They have a lot more gadgets and gadgets out there really do help promote you breastfeeding while you're traveling, breastfeeding while you're returning to work, breastfeeding while you're trying to do all the other things, which really wasn't the lay of the land 8 years ago when I was breastfeeding. And I'm sure, 20 and 25 years ago when people were breastfeeding. But I would be remiss if I didn't be honest with you and tell you that it's a task to breastfeed when you return to work. But as long as you're diligent about it, you can make it happen. Also, hold on, let me get my kids under control. Okay, a little gentle parenting with a little raised tone. But yes, it is a challenge, but hopefully what you're going to walk away knowing today, is that the length of your feeding is going to change and move with your baby's size. Again, as long as you are tracking your diapers and the feedings to keep up with your baby's output, that will ensure that your baby is nourished. You're going to practice breastfeeding away from home on the days and weeks leading up to that to get comfortable breastfeeding outside of the house. That's going to land till you feeling successful. And then just know, once you get the hang of it, it's going to change. You got to get used to something else because your baby's pattern is going to change. Your baby is growing. Your baby's needs are going to change, especially when they're not feeling well. And that's something we don't take into account. A baby will not want to nurse, or a baby will go on a hunger strike. And we don't stop and think about the fact that our baby might not be feeling well. Mason, I am working, walk away. Find Mason, regulate yourself, walk away. Leave my office. Goodbye, Mason. Cry in another room, Mason. Thank you. He can feel all his feelings. He just needs to feel them somewhere else, y'all. But we don't think about the times when our baby isn't feeling well, why that's changing up. And so accounting for that on the forefront can really help out. So digging into the meat of today. So some tips to make sure that breastfeeding away from home is possible. You want to, practice in front of the mirror, if possible, if you're at home. If you have a partner or something, it's really helpful to start breastfeeding around them so they can tell you some things that they notice. If somebody can take some videos of you, if you can take some photos of yourself, try to do that. Send them to me if you need some feedback. I love when people will get a latch and be like, is this a good latch, or is this a good position, or does this look a certain way? Recording that proof can really, really help. Sometimes we're not okay with being exposed, so using some sort of shawl or scarf could make you feel comfortable. And I'm gonna be the person to tell you, you try to eat with something over your head and tell me how it makes you feel. It can be another thing that makes it difficult for your baby if you're already struggling. And so I say, if latching is a problem, we might not want to introduce that shawl or that cover until you feel like you can pretty much, kind of do it by seeing through the cover and looking under, because it is another layer of frustration, and it's hot under there. Like, it's hot. You want to look for special feeding rooms in advance, and definitely while you're there, in shopping centers and in supermarkets. I love traveling and breastfeeding now because most of the international airports have those mama rooms. And there's actually an app you can download, and you can find out where all of those are, in nearby cities. Sometimes they're on the streets, but a lot of times they're in the airports and big cities. You want to wear clothes that make it easy for you feeding. Y'all, the worst thing about returning to work and talking about you gonna go pump on every breastfeeding break is when you wore a dress to work trying to be cute and you need to go pump, and the dress ain't got no front opening, but it's time for you to pump, and now you gotta go somewhere, derobe, and take your whole dress off just to get to your titties. You have to be very intentional with the clothing and the undergarments that you're wearing while you're breastfeeding. And then, feel confident knowing that you're about to give your baby a healthy start in life. And so it's okay if it's a couple of ounces, it's okay if it's a couple of milliliters. Like, any breast milk is breast milk. And so, a fed baby is the best baby. Like, we want to feed our babies to the fullest capacity, but these small tips, breastfeeding away from home, could be the game changer for you all. Questions about any of that stuff? Okay. So we talked about some different ways to express milk. So latching is going to happen and should happen when you are at home and when you're with your baby. And I want that to be your primary way of feeding your baby, to regulate and keep your milk supply up. When you can't get your baby latched, then we want to go to hand expression, using our hands. There are a lot of people that tell me hand expression is not easy for them. It's easy for me because I see a lot of titties. I touch a lot of titties. I know how to get some milk out of titties. If it's not easy for you, at minimum, just touch the breast and massage it, and then go to the manual or the Haka. Those two do tend to be a little easier than the electric breast pump. Or the wearable breast pumps. Those do kind of have some learning curves, but most of us, when we return back to working outside of the home or even working in the home, we're going to need a wearable and electric pump that can kind of get the milk out faster, unless you're like dope and you can figure out how to work the Haka. Like, I can show some people how to work the Haka and they never have to buy a wearable. But these are the healthiest and the easiest ways we want to express milk. Some things to, not forget about, but when we're talking about breastfeeding, and managing life. So where'd the screen just go? Sorry, y'all, I can't see the screen. There we go. If you have multiple babies, I don't think anybody in this cohort has multiples, but some people in my other cohort that have multiples, that impacts your milk supply. And so if you're tandem feeding, if you have an older baby and a younger baby, that impacts your milk supply as well. That's something to know. Like, don't beat yourself up about that. Breastfeeding in public is something that, if you have a partner, y'all need to talk about everybody's comfort level. I remember the first time, we were sitting at a table and my husband kind of made a remark. What, feed my child? Like, yes, I'm going to feed my child at the table where everybody else is eating. But for him, I was pulling my titties out at the table in front of everybody else. And I didn't need my number one supporter of us in this journey transferring any type of shame to me about what I was doing for our child and I wanted him to be able to be proud of what I was doing and understand that it's not sexual. And we are going to be the people that are going to destigmatize that by honoring that it happens in public spaces and places. He got a lot better about it because wherever I went, my titties went, and that's where I fed my child. I'm gonna tell you that. And in the early days, for those of you that haven't had the baby yet, I see Cecily nodding like, yep, where my baby goes, where my titties go, and that's where I feed. If you have people that you are going to allow to come visit you in the early days and they got a problem with seeing titties out and milk flowing and a baby feeding and you comfortable, those are the wrong people to have in your home the first couple of days. People that need you to cover up, people that need you to expose, people that need you to change what's making, your day-to-day, like, that's not the village we want around in the beginning. They can mean well, and it does make it harder when you have to keep up with these weird norms. You want to think about pumping and milk storage. So when you're returning to work, and everybody on this call, what's cool about this cohort, everybody's in a different career field. I know April's an entrepreneur, and so she really gets to set her schedule. She's going to kind of determine the maternity leave. She's going to determine her pumping schedule, but book may determine whether she's going to get that afternoon pump break, and that pump break right before she goes to get the kid. And so think about how many hours you will be away from your child and how many feedings your child would have had within that time frame. You definitely need to get that many pump breaks in. And if you can get more, that's cool. You want to try to pump around the times of day that your baby would eat. Again, like if you're working a night shift and your baby's sleeping through the night, that's going to look a little different, but we want to get the milk out consistently at work versus letting it build up 4 and 5 hours before we get it out. Now, if that's your reality, there are some laws that protect against that, that say, you should be given adequate time outside of your break time and not penalized at work to be able to breastfeed. How do you determine the amount of feedings when you feed on demand? Good question. So biggest thing with the amount of feedings when you feed on demand is if you are tracking it in an app or some sort of log, you kind of get a view, a summary of, let's say, 3 to 4 consistent days. And so we see in 3 to 4 days, I'm probably feeding the baby 12 times. If that range is 10 to 15, we're just going to say 12. One day they got 10, one day they got 13, one day they got 15. So I'm probably feeding the baby 12 times a day. Well, if I'm going back to work and now I'm not able to latch my baby, feed my baby 6 of those times, within the time frame that maybe 5 or 6 of those would happen, then that's how many feedings or pumping sessions or expression sessions I want to get in when I'm away from baby. And then I always tell folks, when in doubt, it doesn't kill you to do a lot, like to do more than what your baby would have ate. And, you just might not show up as much, but if you do, then hey, you get more milk than the baby would get, and you're just going to make more milk. But don't feel like you have to kill yourself, because the thing is, when you get back with your baby's going to miss it so much, they're going to bring more milk down. And so they're going to help replenish your supply as long as you keep those night feedings or those morning feedings. My favorite feeding, I tell people, especially if you're returning to work, the one you definitely got to get in is that right after school feeding. Like if you can pick up the baby in a good amount of time to either feed at school or feed right when you get home versus needing them to get a bottle in that in-between time, that really does help hormones in your supply. And if y'all have any other questions, feel free to pop them in the chat like that one was. Raina, is it an emergency? If it's not an emergency, ask your father.
He doesn't, I don't know if he knows how to do it.
What do you need, Raina?
What time do I put them on board?
Baby, your daddy can read the instructions. Go ask your father. We're gonna empower these daddies to do some stuff too, y'all. I ain't playing. I pump it and milk storage. So milk storage is the one that mess people up a lot because our bodies are different. So you could have a high amount of this hormone called lipase, which could make your milk smell irony or soapy, which would make some people not want to give it to their baby. Because if you're like me, I smell everything before I gave it to my kid. I tasted it too. If my grandma told me, if it smells funny, don't put it in your mouth. I just think that go for all things. And the first time my son didn't put my breast in his mouth is because it smelled like sour milk. My breast pads had expired milk in them and I wasn't changing them often, and my breast started to stink. And so you want to remember that that's a living organism. And so that's why milk storage is important. Most of us have a refrigerator. All of us have freezer. All of us have refrigerators and all of us have freezers. Most of us might have a deep freezer. If you are to the point where you have an excess of milk from the refrigerator, we want to default to, freezer and deep freezer. Deep freezer is going to keep it longer. If we need to put it in the refrigerator, we don't want the milk in the door. We want the milk at the back of the coldest part of the refrigerator you can find. Turn your thermostat up in the refrigerator. And then we want to work on the FIFO method. First in, first out. Like, it's not the last milk that you put in, that's the first milk you give the baby. No, it's the first bottle that you put in there, that's the first bottle you give the baby. And if you actually put the bottles and you start stacking them behind each other, it makes it easier to know. So you're going with how long milk lasts. The rule is 4-4-4. Mason, go find your daddy. He's not here. I'm working. Thank you. If you keep looking, you'll find. The 4-4-4 rule says 4 days in the 4 hours out. So 4 hours out at room temperature, milk is good. 4 days in the refrigerator, milk is good. 4 months in the freezer, milk is good. That's the 4-4-4 rule. Like, if you just need something simple to remember. I'm a smell girl. Okay, so yes, 4 hours out, milk is good. It might still be good at 6. It probably still is. Smell it. It should smell like unsweetened almond milk. It's probably less good, closer to the 12-hour range. And it might still be good if your house is cold. Smell it. You don't want to get in the habit of, not using something the way that you could. Because if you can't ingest the milk, bathe the baby in the milk, shampoo the baby in the milk. There's make lotion with the milk. There's stuff you can do with the milk other than give it to the baby. You can store the milk in bags. You can store the milk in syringes. You can store the milk in bottles. You want to make sure if you're putting it in bottles, close lids, tight, air sealed lids. And if we're doing bags, let's date and label them. Timestamp, AM or PM. You can go as far as 8 p.m., but we really just need to know AM and PM, because your morning milk has energy that your night milk does not have. And so if you're giving your baby your morning milk at night all the time, and you wonder why your baby is always hyper at night, it's typically because they're getting your energetic daytime milk. Yes, you can come up. Thank you for asking. Most of y'all on the intake thing, we talked about maternity leave and what that looked like. Oh, wait, I see a question. When you say first in, first out, does this include the liquid gold or the real milk? Still have liquid gold in the freezer? I would definitely go and use my liquid gold, because that's the best of the best of the best. And the person that is 4 needs to get it as soon as sooner than later. It doesn't hurt though to save some of it for, not feeling so well days. Like on those days when he's not feeling his best, one of those bottles would be coming out for sure. For sure. That was a good question. I mean, you've been storing for a minute then. Okay, then, little stash. I see you.
Listen, unintentionally.
You said unintentionally?
Yes.
It's a good problem to have, though. I always tell people, if we're worried about, one of the moms I'm working with right now, one of the ones that had her baby, I didn't tell you I had a baby, 2 babies come last week out of nowhere. It's been a crazy week. But both my babies are in the NICU, and I'm working with the mom. I'm just like, we're giving the baby what we have. And 4 days in, she's run out of syringes to put the milk in. I'm like, that's a good problem. That means we are stimulating, because I gave her like 15, 20 syringes. I'm like, those your bottles. You filling up your bottles, baby. Like, it's a good thing, a good problem to have. Your diet and your nutrition matters. I have a mom right now that's 2 weeks postpartum, and milk has already started to thin out, look very whitish. So what you'll notice about your milk is you can tell when it's really fatty, and you can tell when it's fat deprived. It will look like thin water. Am I lying, Cecily? it will look like thin water. And so, you know, you want it to be really fatty, really dense. And so that is impacted by your diet. The easiest way to put it is if you barely input, you will barely output. If you scarcely input, you will scarcely output. But if you have a hearty input, you will have a hearty output. You want to drink for thirst. And just to keep yourself from being dehydrated, because if you are dehydrated, your organs will fail to work properly. Like that's the real reason why we're drinking. It's not you drink a gallon of water and you're gonna make a gallon of milk. No, you drink so that your organs are not deprived and dehydrated, so they can work for you to stay alive and to make milk. Because we forget that part. Like our organs are working to keep us alive. That's energy. And then they gotta make milk for somebody. And so we want to just do the bare minimum. Weaning refers to phasing a baby off of either the breast or breast milk in total. And there are 3 different types of weaning. You have mommy-led weaning, baby-led weaning, and society-led weaning. I talked to y'all about this in one of the earlier classes. And the ideal one as a counselor we want is baby-led weaning. We're okay with mommy-led weaning because mamas matter. Mason, if you do that again, you're getting down. Okay, sit still. Mamas matter. The one that we really want to steer clear of, though, y'all, is society-led weaning. Don't let nobody guilt trip you into feeding. Not your job, not your partner, not your grandparent, anybody. You really want it to be you and your baby's choice, because y'all are the 2 that are going through this. And, give yourself grace. If it becomes unfun, uncomfortable, a problem, we done. Like, we figure out another alternative, because a fed baby is best. And it shouldn't tank on your mental health. I'm sure Natalie wouldn't mind me sharing this with y'all, but Natalie, that's in this cohort with us, she's had her baby since we've been going through this, and we're going through some breastfeeding issues. She's, been letting me support her. And thankfully, through a couple of the providers that have come through this class and just some sessions that I've had with her, like, we found out baby got a tongue tie, among other things. Like, doctors didn't get all the stuff out of her they were supposed to get out of her. So she's thinking it's her, and it's not her. It's all of these other things that she could not control, that she could not have known. And, she just to support navigating. And so if that ends up being any of y'all journeys, like, this is my open invitation. Like, please feel free to tap back into me. But I want to be able to be a support, like one of those support from others. And I want y'all to be able to support each other. Any questions, comments, concerns about just like managing breastfeeding in life? A lot of people here sometimes have questions about like traveling and breastfeeding, or like drinking and breastfeeding, or birth control and breastfeeding, things like that.
So I have a question about returning to work and breastfeeding / pumping, because I'll be working from home for the rest of the year, but I'm getting a nanny or someone, babysitter, to come and help throughout the day so that I can actually work. During that time, should I pump as if I'm actually away from home in the office, even though he's probably going to be down the hall in his room or downstairs? Or should I continue to nurse because he's here and I want to nurse him before he gets teeth? So how do you kind of regulate working from home when you're going to eventually go back to work, I guess, next year sometime?
For you specifically, I would be thinking about 2 things. One of the things that immediately popped into mind to me is, if you confuse the baby to think that they have you and the person, they're going to default to wanting you more throughout the day than the person. And so if you can separate church and state, like you're at work when you're at work and you're at home when you're at home. Now, let's say you take your lunch break and you nurse them on your lunch breaks. Or you take the 15s that you might get and nurse him then, that's cool. But if you can put like hard boundaries between, like, I'm at work, that will build the habit and the routine for you and for baby, because baby has to get adjusted to things and directions and interaction and, distraction from somebody else. And when mommy comes in, that does kind of disrupt some stuff. I was fortunate my first year breastfeeding to be really close to my child's childcare. And so on her lunch and my lunch, those were the 2 times I didn't pump. I just went and nursed. And that, like, I literally I worked across the street from her daycare. So I would just go over there for the 15, 20 minutes instead of pumping. Like I could see that working out for you being at home. But if it's every single feeding, I just, go and establish it for you, especially if at some point you're going to work outside of the home again.
And what about weaning?
Okay, so, go ahead.
What about weaning night feed? So we went to the pediatrician last week, and I basically have a baby giant, and she said that he's not hungry in the middle of the night. He's just doing it to soothe himself. And so I don't know how to wean that night feed. Because when he gets on, he's only on for like a few minutes and then he falls back to sleep.
I was gonna say the easiest way to wean the night feed. Do you still swaddle?
Yes.
Do you still swaddle?
Well, when he stays in it.
So when he wakes up in the middle of the night, attempting to swaddle, attempting to shush, rock and sway, like returning back to that, like back in the womb feeling, simulating that. Somebody other than you getting him could also make him not be hungry, because if you get him, he smell you, he hungry. If somebody else get him, not so much. And then just, soothing and returning right back to bed, as frustrating as it is in the middle of the night. That's what's recommended, just like soothe, confirm that they're okay, right back to bed. If you use pacifiers, that's a good time to give them something to suck and settle on. And if not, just a good swaddle. Another way to kind of ease away from that night feed, whatever your nighttime routine is, if you moved everything up 30 minutes to incorporate, or it's back 30 minutes, move everything back 30 minutes to get that last feeding in a little later, that could stretch it. And then there's one more program I'm gonna send you. It's called Baby Wise. It's like this feeding schedule thing to wean baby off. I'm gonna send you that too. I have some clients they're on their second child using it, and they swear by this. They have their 3-week-old down to the point where she ain't even taking the night feeding no more. And I'm like, how, Sway? Like, how did this thing gotta be golden? And they swear by it. And I was there. This baby woke up at 10 to eat. This baby woke up at 1 to eat, and that was it. Like, they knew exactly when they needed me for the postpartum shit. They was like, she gonna eat at 10 and at 1, and that's it. And that was literally it. It was crazy. It's called Baby Wise. So I'm gonna send it to you. That can help. So this is a cool position right here to show you a way that you can breastfeed any type of baby, but specifically a newborn. So she's kind of laid back feeding. In this position, baby is still attached to the placenta. That's the placenta right here in this pink bucket. And they're getting their skin to skin. And one thing that you can see in this baby's position is the tummy is on mommy. Okay. And then you want the baby's nose and chin close to the breast. You want the baby's shoulder and hip in a straight line. Now, because mama had literally just pushed this baby out, she couldn't plan ahead and find a comfortable space. We had to do what we could do. But ideally, when we want to think about expressing milk and it coming out good, you want to plan ahead and find a comfortable place. At work, you need to know in advance the consistent place you're pumping. It needs to be the same place every day, honestly, so you can have a station. Same way it's set up at your house. Y'all, I lit candles. There was a show I watched. It was like a whole thing. You want to make that happen. You want to express as many times as you would feed the baby. So I told you, if you're gone from the baby and the baby would have ate 3 times within that time frame, that's how many times you want to get the milk out. You don't have to do more than that. And then keep it simple. And keep it fast and gentle like the baby. The baby is not eating on you for 45 minutes, so don't pump for 45 minutes at work. Even if you only got 1 or 2 ounces out, stop it at the feeding sessions. Okay, pumping. I had a lot of questions about pumping. I know a lot of people that want to do this exclusive pumping journey. I support it if you know how to do it safely and healthily with the right education. You also have to invest in the right gadgets and gadgets. You cannot say you want an exclusive pumping journey and you're not willing to invest in the right pumping products and the right wearable products to support that journey. But when it's time to introduce pumping, so experts, pediatricians, all the folk, they say it's not recommended to introduce pumping before your milk supply establishes. That takes anywhere from 3 to 4 weeks for families. And sometimes we are separated from our babies and pumping is medically necessary. I'm supporting 4 moms right now. 3 babies are in the NICU. Most of them are pumping now because the parents are not close to the baby and they need instant ways of getting the milk out outside of the haka, outside of the hand. And it was hell in the early days, like helping their minds not feel defeated. And so if you don't have to pump, let's not pump the early days because it's going to be really hard to get something out and you are not going to fill up whatever you're pumping into. I can guarantee you, and you will feel like a failure. And that's not the goal of the first early days, is to find those moments of success. You want to relax when you can. If you're tense, if you're tight, if you're rushing, if you're somewhere uncomfortable, if you're on guard, you're not going to get anything out. You always want to massage the breast before you get started. Y'all, sex is not fun if you ain't had no foreplay. It's rough. It's not comfortable. Breastfeeding is not fun if you have not given, hello, Mason, you have not given your breast foreplay. Like, you need to massage your breast. If the baby is trying to suck at a breast that has not been massaged and primed, milk is hard to come out. They're already burning calories sucking. Y'all use y'all jaws. Y'all know how much it hurts to help them babies out, okay? I'm just the honest person. I'm just being honest with you, okay? You want to be gentle when you're rubbing your nipples, especially those early days. Babies are sucking on them. It's skin, it's scabs. It does come off. It can tear. It can all that. So you want to be gentle. You want to visualize the milk flow. And I tell people all the time, like, visualize the milk flow. And April, I'm raw, just being honest. Think about when you are struggling to be constipated or when you can't pee in public, people run water. They tell you to think about water flowing and things like it's the same for breastfeeding. Like, if you think I can't make it, it's stuck, it won't come out. Your body knows that. And if you're thinking like, I'm relaxed, it's flowing, it's coming, it'll happen. If you're away from your baby, think about your baby. Bring a photo of your baby. I used to record my baby crying so that could stimulate my let down and like listen to it when I was pumping. And you could be somewhere in public, not near your baby, near somebody else's baby, and you'll start leaking. That's a good thing. That's good symbols. And signs. If you could get, photos of your baby clothing, something to smell and just have around them, that's really, really helpful. And then again, when we start pumping, we want to make sure we're storing the milk safe. We're cleaning all of the parts. Some of my favorite things, to invest into when you're pumping are those sterilization bags. Medela makes these microwave bags. You get 20 uses out of them. You can put all your pump pieces into this bag, a little bit of water, throw it in the microwave for 30 seconds, your pump parts are clean and sterilized. If you're working, they're good for pumping while traveling. Especially if you're not at a place where you can wash all the time in somebody's sink. As long as you can find a microwave, bam, throw them in there and go. And it's like the bag is probably this wide, so it's not super big. It's like the size of a gallon bag. You did get a car, Mason. You want to make sure you always have an extra something with you. So if you take your pump to work, bring your manual with you as well, or have some extra pieces, because if the motor goes out, if anything, and you can't express, then we're just shitting fuck out of luck, honestly. Questions about pumping? Like stuff I didn't touch, questions that y'all are waiting to ask or answer. Fun tips and facts and things to know about pumping. If you're traveling and you're staying at a hotel and you're pumping, let them know. It could result in you getting an upgrade to a room with the refrigerator because they have to provide storage for you for your breast milk. Sometimes they just bring your refrigerator or a freezer, but sometimes if it's in a certain room, you get an upgrade for that. You can travel with breast milk, frozen or unfrozen through TSA. I love that question about drinking and pumping. I'm about to get with that one. The recommendation though is the same thing. So you want to store the milk in 4-ounce bags or less, 4-ounce bottles or less. They are going to take you to a separate line and kind of scan your hands and scan the milk. But I've traveled back from Aruba with 150 ounces of milk on my shoulder, and I went straight through TSA. Like I didn't have to, dump it or put it anywhere. And because I was traveling overseas, I got the room with the freezer to freeze it to be able to bring it back, so it didn't go bad while we were traveling.
Hey everybody.
We got a question before I answer the question.
Yes, I do have a question. We have our new member here. And he's ready to eat. I had a quick question.
Everybody had their baby.
Hey, yes, we all did. We were not ready, but the babies was ready. So here they are. This man spits up a lot. So I think I'm sorry if somebody already asked, but how do you know when enough is enough and when he's just self-soothing? And also he cannot hold the pacifier in his mouth. So I was wondering if that is like a sign of a possible tongue tie.
So first question was about the spitting up a lot. So typically when a baby is spitting up a lot, it's one of three things. It's either the position that they're in while they're drinking makes it difficult for them to digest. Their digestive systems are still very immature, or there could be a tie or something going on. Or the fourth one, they're being overfed, so they're too full. And so for you, I always like to go like, it's not worse, like it's not the worst thing. So let's start with like the easiest thing that it could be, his position. So, if you're typically feeding him cross cradle, try to feed him sitting up or laying back. If you notice that you're leaning forward, try to lean back. If he's sucking for a straight 5 minutes and spitting up, let's have him suck for 3 minutes and let's burp him and then put him back, and like try to break it up to help him get that bit of air in there to digest. If you still notice that that's going on, it could very well be that he's eating too often. And so then we want to put some time in between the feedings. And then if you're giving it to him in a bottle, you want to have him upright and you want to tilt the bottle this way versus having the bottle at a horizontal angle. So that was the first questions about the spitting up. And then there was another question that came in there.
Yeah, he's not able to keep his pacifier in his mouth for more than like a few seconds.
So that typically is a sign of, just sometimes preference, them letting you know what their suck or suction will or will not allow. I'm not sure what brand of pacifier or style you're using. Most parents have to go through like 3 or 4 different styles of pacifier before they find the one the baby likes, if they even like them, because some babies never take them. My kids were all a fan of that medical one, the green one, and then they're just different hardness or softness of it. So maybe he doesn't like the hard ones, maybe he wants the softer one, or vice versa. So if you have a couple of different ones, try playing around with it. The real evidence of the tie would be if you see him like crying or struggling at the breast or difficulty latching, that could let you know that we're having an issue with a tongue tie. And then if we need to do a private session, just reach out to me. I got you. Okay. So there was another question that came in the chat about drinking and pumping. So I'm gonna give you the counselor spiel and I'm gonna give you the real mama spiel. So lactation counselor spiel, anything that you put into your body, alcohol, marijuana, cigarettes, crack cocaine, all the things, anything you put into your system is in your system and transfers to your baby. I mean, some people live their life, I ain't no judging. And You know, anything you put into your body is in your system. Specifically, though, with things like marijuana and alcohol, they impact the liver, and things take a longer time to break down in the liver. So that's something you got to know. I mean, you breathe stuff that's in your body that's also, you know, transferring to milk and what you're doing. So food to sit on, the things to think about. Best rule of thumb is you want to feed your baby before you drink. And like before you drink. If you need to feed your baby after you've drank, feed your baby almost immediately after you drank, because it has not made it into your system. Like blood alcohol content, it has not made it into your bloodstream. You're not typically immediately drunk when you take a shot, you know, about 30 minutes later. So you get like a 30, 45-minute window. The minute you are lifted, the minute you are inebriated, the minute you are experiencing any of those elevated highs, your milk is elevated. Don't give it to your baby then. Let it ride. You don't dump all of your body out of your blood when you have a drunken night. You drink some water and you sober up, you know, and then you're no longer drunk via your blood. It's the same thing for your milk. So I, like the lactation counselors long time ago, used to tell you to pump and dump. Most of us new age lactation counselors are telling you don't pump and dump, pump and wait, like pump for relief. If you like, if it's hurting, like I remember my first time back drinking after Mason, and I went sloppy. Like I got carried in sloppy, like slept in the car sloppy, titties was just wet everywhere sloppy, but it hurt. And I remember just being in the club in the bathroom, like, get a little bit out because it hurt. Like just get a little bit out for relief, keep it moving. Because I also didn't want to get my 3 ounces out, because that was the 3 ounces my baby needed, and I was in the middle of the club. So you can express for relief. And keep it moving. I'm just being honest. There are also strips that you can get if you're really unsure. You can test your milk to see if it's intoxicated. When you freeze beforehand when traveling, how do you store it when you get home, especially if it thaws? So I always travel with my insulated milk bag and just like some ice packs too. And so the milk was like frozen to the point to where a 9 to 12 hour trip, which is about how long that flight was, didn't impact the milk unthawing fully. As long as it still has ice crystals in it, it is frozen. As long as it still has crystals in it, it is frozen. Freeze it again. The minute it no longer has crystals in it, that is unthawed. You need to put it in the refrigerator. So in the event that it did become unthawed, put it in the refrigerator. And I do remember on that trip, there, like that milk I pumped that day, of course I wasn't able to freeze it because I pumped it that day. So I put it at the bottom, put all of that other really frozen milk on top to keep it as cold as it could get. And by the time I got home, it was really, really cold. That was a good question. And if anybody didn't know that, once breast milk is unthawed, we do not unthaw. That's not a word. I keep saying every word. Once breast milk is thawed, we do not refreeze it. Once breast milk is thawed, because you don't unthaw. Once breast milk is thawed, we don't refreeze it, but you can use it. And then you want to avoid mixing warm milk and cold milk. You can give the baby warm milk and you can give the baby cold milk, but let's not mix them into containers because they're different temperatures. The cold milk make the hot milk temperature change, and it changes the makeup of the milk, because again, breast milk is a living organism. When you microwave something, you are changing its composition. And so same thing with adding hot and cold. Questions about any of that stuff? Okay, so most of y'all have like started to look into pumps. A few of y'all have even reached out to me separately and asked for some things, like some input on pumps. So stuff you want to look for in a pump. These are like the top 3 questions is, would you like a pump that's comfortable and that goes with you, or do you just want a pump that like gets some milk out? Because for some people, like how it looks and how it moves matters, and for other people, you just really need to work. If you just really need it to work, we go Medela, we go to medical model. Like they ain't putting stuff in hospitals that ain't getting the milk out. And every hospital in America is gonna give you a Medela. They're gonna give you a hospital grade Medela. But you know, if that is not the most important thing to you, there are a bunch of different options. I just left a postpartum walkthrough where these folks had a wearable pump that looked like the Mom Cozy, but it was not the Mom Cozy. It didn't even have a name brand on it. and it costs way less than the Mom Cozy. So there, there's just a lot of things coming out. Ask yourself, do you want something that pumps fast, or something that makes you feel more comfortable? And then ask yourself, are you comfortable with paying a little extra? So on and so just figure out like what works for you. Anybody have any questions about what to look for in a pump?
Yes. I mean, even though I already have 2 pumps, still, my question is for the second one. It says, would you like a fast pump? Like, what's the difference between a fast pump? Because I know that I have the Mom Cozy and I have a Lance and Noah, a medical pump. That my insurance gave me. Anywho, they have different levels of pump. Like, some of them are slow, some of them are fast, some of them are strong, is like a stronger latch than the others. Is it more so that it needs to be fast, or it needs to be slow and drawn out? Like, does that really matter?
So and it's so funny. I was just talking to the mom at the last shift. So what you should do with every pump, regardless of the brand, it all works the same. It should mimic how your baby eats. When your baby gets at your breast, they're like suck, 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 like they are trying to get it. They moving real fast. So your pump should be on the fast setting. That's typically called massage. They should be on the fast setting. Once your letdown happens, that's normally, then it should start going zzz, that's that slow. And depending on how much milk you're trying to draw down, you want a longer zzz, Some people need to stimulate it a little faster, so it's but if you got a strong letdown, you probably are just going so it depends on your letdown, and it might be different per breast. You might have a fast letdown over here and a slow letdown over here. But you should definitely go really, really fast and then switch to slow.
Okay, so I do have different letdowns. My left one is way stronger than my right one. So I guess I should mimic that on my pump as well, because right now I don't. I just have them both on the same setting.
Yeah, and so for you, that means you're not going to be able to double pump because you can't switch the settings in it. So you're going to have to pump one side and pump the other side. And what could help you out though, so for the one that has a really strong letdown, I would put the haka on that side and pump the other side. And then once you got that side pumped, if you don't see a reasonable amount in the haka, or if it still feels full, go pump the other side. You won't even have to pump it long, because if it has a strong letdown like that, the haka's gonna straight suction and just draw it down anyway. So I would let the electric one just do that work over here and let the haka draw it down on the other side. I was like that too. I had a strong letdown on one side. I would have to go one at a time. I was like never able to double pump. It pissed me off all the time. Now, what's crazy is it could change in different journeys. My second breastfeeding journey, both my letdowns were very strong. Like, I'm talking like I could like Nerf gun from across the room. I could just press it and it would just squirt out. It was crazy. Real strong.
I accidentally did that in the car the other day. I shot milk all the way up from the back seat to the front seat.
Yes, that's a good letdown. That's the magic trick they don't tell you about that we do. All righty. I kind of touched on this, but just gonna touch back over it, and for sake of time, how long is too long? So again, we go by the 4-4-4. So 4 hours is best, but 6 to 8 hours is okay to leave milk out at room temperature. Refrigerator in between 3 and 5 days is that 4. That's where that 4 comes from. In the freezer in between 3 and 6 is 4. So that's where that 4 comes from. And then the deep freezer, you got up to 6 months. I always tell people, if you have a stash, make sure you're checking on your stash currently. The saddest thing to help somebody navigate was a mom like cleaning out her freezer that came unplugged that she didn't know about, and her whole stash was gone. 1, it smelled horrible, and then 2, like we had to clean this, and it was just like, dang, if I was checking on this milk ever so often, I would know. Because we could have caught some of it if we knew. So check on your stash often. We talked about when to express and how much, but just, some more things from the experts, y'all. Breastfed babies between 1 and 6 months old take anywhere from 2 to 4 ounces per feeding. Babies should not be getting 6, and 8 ounces of milk before they're 6, 7, 8 months old. Their stomachs can't take it. And if they are getting this much, we need to work on scaling it back for them. They will take what you give them, and then they may spit it up a whole bunch. So just think about that. Your milk changes to meet your baby's needs. So one day it may be 4 ounces, the next day it may be 5, and then the next day it's 3. Sometimes you want to eat your whole plate when you go to Zaxby's, and sometimes you only eat 2 of the tenders. You still like the same meal. You still the same adult. And so don't freak out when it changes for your baby. Some days the baby is going to eat less. Some days the baby is going to eat more. When the baby is eating more at night, during the day, this is called reverse cycling. This is normal. Babies cluster feed. This is normal. Babies go on nursing strikes. This is normal. Something you need to know is hungry babies eat. Hungry babies eat. And however you got to give it to them, if it's not at the breast, if it's in a syringe, if it's in a bottle, if it's in a cup, if grandma got to give it to them. However, we just try all of the things versus thinking like you can't do it. We got to switch it up for newborns. And then when in doubt, track your baby's weight. That's how you're going to know your baby got enough. Track your baby's weight. Again, I go over these almost every visit. Signs your baby is getting enough. Weight gain is not just enough, but that's the only one your pediatrician is going to make you feel good or bad about. That's the only one. Weight gain matters, but it's the number of wet and dirty diapers. It's the color and the composition of the poop. It's how short or how long they're sleeping. Babies that sleep a whole bunch are not eating. A lethargic, tired, sleepy baby is not a baby that's eating, because a baby that's eating wants to wake up and eat more. So they're going to get up. They should be content after feedings, and the breast should feel soft, more gentle to the touch than they were when you started feeding. If you have one of these and not all of these, check in with the counselor like me, check in with the mom that's had success with breastfeeding, but don't just go off of weight gain, because your baby's gonna lose weight at first and then they're gonna gain weight. It always happens. The diapers match their age. So a 2-day-old has 2 wet and 2 dirties. A 5-day-old has 5 wet and 5 dirties. 6 or more after 6 days is great. That's what we want. And the poop should go from black to green to yellow. And should just stay yellow and seedy. Avoiding problems, and Cecily has referenced this a whole bunch, y'all. We want to feed on demand. That's the biggest way you're going to avoid problems. Feed on demand. Feed your baby when they're hungry. When your baby's crying, your baby's not always hungry. I was on a postpartum shift with the baby the other night, and she was crying. She was not hungry. She needed to be re-swaddled in a different swaddle. The one she was in was boring. She needed to go in a different room. And instead of me going, shh, 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 she needed me to go, shh, 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 put that baby right to sleep. And the mama was like, I would not have done all of that. I'm like, I know, because I have more energy than you right now, but that's what you need to do. Your baby you just need to switch it up. Empty both your breasts every feeding. Don't skip feedings. Make sure you're comfortable. Make sure baby's comfortable. Eat often. If you need reminders to eat, tell me. I can schedule some messages to tell you, eat a meal, eat a snack, eat a meal, eat a snack. Do skin to skin as much as possible. Have your baby on your bare skin. Take their clothes off. Touch them. Pick your baby up. Hold your baby. If somebody tell you you're spoiling your baby, tell them you're stabilizing your milk supply. That's what you're doing. You're stabilizing your milk supply. Your baby is your regulator. That's what we're going to do. Avoid pumping in those first 4 to 6 weeks unless it's medically necessary. If your latch hurts, if your nipples hurt, adjust it early. Tap in with me, tap in with somebody, but we can fix it. You don't want to get used to a poor latch. Avoid pacifiers and bottles if the latch is poor. It may, it's easy to default to them, but if the baby is struggling at your nipple, they're going to struggle with other nipples too. And so let's not move the finish line. And then co-room. Co-rooming means having your baby sleep close by. That helps with your milk supply. That helps with your hormones. That helps with your baby's regulation and sleep. Here's my mama answer. If you have to co-sleep, do it safely. It is not recommended to co-sleep. And if you have to do it safely. The baby should be in a carrier, a barrier, a something, not just on your chest, not just on the bed where you could roll over where the baby could fall off. I've done both and the baby has done both. I've rolled over on the baby and the baby has fallen under the bed, rolled off the bed and fell under the bed. Neither of them felt good. So if you got to do it safe. I'm just being honest, so you ain't got to live my struggle. Like, get in the middle of the bed, put some pillows around you so the baby can roll to the pillow versus under the bed like Raina did. She here, she's smart, she good, but she rolled under that bed in the first 2 weeks of life because I was dead tired breastfeeding on the edge of my bed and my arm just went. And so did the baby. But you know, having the baby sleep close by is really good for them transitioning. It also lowers their chance of sudden infant death syndrome, SIDS. Can I go over the composition of poop? Yep. So composition of poop, babies' poop should be thick and let me go back to it, thick and tarry and black. And I'll put this chart in the group as well. In the early days, and then it should move to being loose and green. It might even start to look lime greenish yellow. After that, it should almost be like water with some mustard seeds in it and just like yellow and seedy. And it should stay loose and yellow and seedy. It does not turn into like turds like we know it until you're introducing something other than just milk. Once you introduce like purees and other solids and rice cereals and things like that, you'll start to get the little like softer, more elongated turds. If you ever get pebbles, that's a sign of dehydration. So we need to hydrate. Like, it should never look like little rock pebbles, even in your poop. If it looks like little pebbles, you are dehydrated. So let's get some water in you. And I'll put this chart in there too, but the goal is black to yellow, black and yellow, black and yellow. I wonder if Wiz knew he did that. What'd you say?
Can it be too loose?
Mm-mm.
Like runny loose, or just
not at this stage?
Okay. This
not,
stage,
not at this stage. It's like it really is just like before table food. Yep.
Okay.
Now you should see a couple of seeds in there. At least one or two little seeds should be in there. That's what you're looking for. All that looseness and then a couple of little seeds, like little sunflower seeds.
What are the seeds? Because
and they actually they're smaller than that. It's the turds trying to grow up. I don't know a scientific way to say it. It's the immature turds. Okay, so my guest did jump in, but I had some stuff prepared to talk to y'all about anyway, just in case she didn't, because I know this was a different class and she agreed to be in. But my action item and my task for y'all, especially y'all that haven't had the baby yet, order your breast pump. Do it this week. If you need help getting with a supplier or a vendor, everybody normally goes through Aeroflow, but I have a couple of other people you go through if you need help or support. They go through your insurance. Everybody should be able to get a free breast pump from their insurance. It might not be the kind you want, but everybody should. If you want, if you can't and you need a breast pump, let me know. I have several that I loan out to people. I have a couple that I could let people have. It just depends on what brand you're looking for. If you have one from your insurance and you're like, hey, I want a second one to go to work with, or because that's one of my suggestions. If you're going to return to work outside the home, have a pump for your home and have a pump for your job. That way you're not transporting pieces and parts and motors back and forth, losing something. The worst thing is to get all the way to work and to be ready to pump and you left your flanges on the counter drying. You just need to separate church and state, have one there, have one there. So if you need one while you're pumping, I have Modellas, I have Spectras, I have Motifs, and I have Lacinos that I let people loan out. I give you the motor and you just buy the replacement kits. And so I want to work with any of y'all. If that becomes a part of your journey, please just let me know. But that's going to be what I'm going to be checking in with y'all on before our next class is ordering the breast pump. Because I know technically this is supposed to be our last class, but I didn't get to do number 4 with y'all. So this is number 4. So I'm gonna pick another date for number 5. And that's what I want y'all to do. Order your breast pump. So I know it was a lot of information. Went about 20 minutes over because it started a little late. But what questions do y'all have for me? No questions? They make me feel like a good teacher. I don't get offended by it. It just let me know I be covering the stuff I'm supposed to cover. You know what I'm saying? No, and I know a lot of people ask questions throughout it. And so if y'all come up with any questions, because I know like a lot of y'all, some due dates are coming up.